CIO News. I am Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and Chief Editor at CIO News. This is our exclusive interview
Thank
series.
you so much, Khushbu.
Great. Dominic, this is our exclusive interview series on the topic of digital transformation on the edge, powered by Tata Communications with our digital innovators of India. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. It gives me an immense pleasure in having you on our today's session. And Dominic, you being the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Art Housing Finance India Limited, to give a brief about your profile to our viewers. Dominic is a technology specialist with expertise in designing, implementing, and supporting IT services, operations, and infrastructure. Dominic has led several digital transformation initiatives in his journey, and his core competencies has given his in governing high growth in IT infrastructure with varied technical initiatives for achieving smooth deployment of technical projects. Dominic has 20 years of rich experience and has significantly contributed in the growth and development of the organizations that he's been associated with. It is an absolute pleasure, Dominic, to have you today.
Thank you so much, Khushbu. It's my pleasure talking to you after a long time.
Yes, and it is again, good to connect with you on the platform once again.
Thank you so much.
Great. Dominic, we would want to start with, putting across the first question. If you can, give us a brief. I mean, we've all heard of the brand Art Housing Finance India Limited, but it'd be good to hear from you if you can just give a small snippet about the organization.
Yeah. Khushbu, first is Art Housing Finance is an affordable housing segment based out of Gurgaon. Okay, we are a 7-year-old company. Our main focus is on the rural segments where we were part of the PMAY. We are still part of the PMAY, Prime Minister Awas Yojana. What we do is we operate on the 6 regions, the Western India and the northern part of India. And we have around 45 plus branches were there. Right now, due to COVID, we had reduced a little bit of branches and brought it down to because of the business transformation. And our main focus area will be LIG customers, LIG, MIG, and EWS kind of customers. Mm-hmm. Basically, you can say, to be a very precise example, Ola drivers, tea shop owners, your grocery home shop thing. We don't do premium funding as on today. We do funding for under construction houses, new home loan against property, and we have multiple products. And any product any schemes which is coming out from Government of India, that is taken by us, and we do it. And main of that very important one is the Prime Minister Awas Yojana, where the customer gets a CLSS benefit of that. So where we are very focused, and we directly come under RBI NHB. We are a regulated company, and with an employee strength of around 500 plus employees working with us across India. Our motto is to see that every Indian affordable can get a loan to buy a house, his dream house. That's what is our main motto, and we've been successful in this 7 years. Good portfolio we have, less of NPAs, and it's a technology-driven company. More than that, when you say art, it is alliance, relationship, and technology. So our complete core business is on the technology. Today, when you talk about acquiring customer, everything is driven by technology. So this has reduced my TAT, OPEX, my cost has come down, and this has given us a boost in one is from the digital point of view, another one is from the business, and see that every Indian can afford to buy a house, and the kind of rate of interest we give, the kind of subsidies we give. These are a few things about my company. And I've been here in this company from last 7 years. That's it.
Great, Dominic. My next question is, you being the Chief Technology Officer for such a large organization, what does your typical day look like?
See, very practically speaking, the day starts off, there is no time as such for a CTO, especially for a company like us, because when a sales team is on the field, it's around the clock support till 10 o'clock in the night. So this day starts off with what do you call that, the MIS, review of the MIS, what's happening for the sales, what's the collection for that particular day. And more than that, how is my sales team? Because sales teams are out on the field at by 9:30, 10. What is the support? What kind of support we're going to give? So basically what we do in the morning, the day starts off with a strategy meeting, a brief on the MIS, which is being shot by the MIS team, discuss the sales for that particular day and everything, and how best a technology can help in doing things. And this is where it started. Then I start our day with my team, a small briefing on with my team, what's happening. Then we start code depending on working on the technology and trying bringing new things, innovative things. So the day starts off like this, and then it's a part of the operational requirement which comes into picture. So you can say the CTO's day is always a mix and match of business and technology and support. So it's a mixture of things which we have to manage together.
Awesome, wonderful. Great. My next question is, around this whole situation that we've been in from the last 2 years. In the post-COVID era, how do you see, or what is the way forward for contributing to a growing digital economy as per you?
See, post-COVID, there are many things have changed. Things which were not predicted, which were not expected happened in last 2 years, and it was terrible. And many things went. The economy went for a toss. People lost their jobs, and there are many things which really had a very bad time. Post that, if I'm looking at from the technology perspective as a CTO and as supporting the business, this has given us the eye opener where your business can run in the hybrid model. So you have to see that, how your business is going to run without disrupting the business, without disrupting the customer requirement. You got to run whether it is in-house or where we are at home. You have to see that the business runs. So it is always given for us to utilize the multiple digital channels what we have these days. Initially, what used to happen before post-COVID, pre-COVID, I can say, we were very comfortable. Working from office, go back home, think. But today it's not that. You have to sometimes overnight things change. And you have to work from home and you need to have multiple digital channels. And when you look at the other end of the customer is not worried about whether it's COVID, pre or post-COVID. End of the day, he wants a resolution, he wants a support, he wants certain things, which is just like anybody for that. So we had to build the digital technology, especially when you talk about the digital payments, the core lending systems, the connectivity. This has played a very, very important role for us. And this has given a boost for where we were thinking twice to invest money on technology and the digital platform. Why I always bring technology is a platform and digital is driven on that. So the CapEx and the OpEx part, today the management always thinks about how much we can invest, what the best way. Yeah, looking at the cost and seeing how the business is managing. So digital channels are widely open. You talk about the payments, Paytms, multiple payment gateways have come in. Today you talk about the lending systems. Today you can even your chatbots are becoming your assistant. You don't have to have somebody in the center or anything. Chatbots. So digital channels are wide open. Technology and digital channels have given you such a growth that you have to work on the hybrid model. You have to keep things always ready for any kind of eventual activities which could hamper your business. So always on the toe.
Correct. Very true. Dominic, what learning has your organization taken from the pandemic, and how does it plan to create a digital ecosystem in the organization?
See, when you look at my organization, from the day one of this organization, when it started, right from the incubation stage, we had a very clear vision that it has to be driven by technology. So we were at some level of building a technology where we could accommodate the customer, acquire the customer to the digital modes. And we were 60 to 70% technically digitally driven, especially when you're acquiring a customer or giving him dispersing a loan or sanctioning his loan, and collection of documents. All this are almost digitized at that point of time. But post-COVID, we had a major hit on the collections. Our focus was more on collection. How we are going to digitize the collection process today? Because today, when you talk about the collection agent has to go to a customer's place to pick up the payment. Now, what is the other mode for you to get the payments without compromising, without right? Today, what happened? when your collection within 90 days, if you don't do a collection, you tend to become an NPA. And as the NPA grows up, your subsidy towards from your RBI or from the NHB stands come to an, there's a question mark which is always there. It questions the stability of the company. So what we have to do is, the only way we can do is, post-COVID has taught us, collections has to be 100%. There is no system in the financial industry which shouldn't be digitized. It has to be digitized, and it has to work on a hybrid model. It has to work offline. It has to work online also. And physical presence, we're trying to cut down and see that, you get things more automated. This has brought us into a very disciplined way. We have brought in a lot of policies. For example, today, if my customer from any, like a place like Chubu or Ajmer, Alwar branch wants to make a payment, I don't have to send my collection agent. I just have to send a link to him on his SMS. He just makes his payment and his EMI get it. Even when you talk about the IMT collection also, we don't take any cash from them. We ask them to do it through the payment gateway. That is one thing. And today, and when we are enabled more of app-based solutions, where customer himself can self-service his customers. For example, he wants an interest certificate. So we are trying to reduce the physical interaction with the customers and giving him a technology which has helped our business to more, secure it in a better way.
Right.
At the same time, we are also working on, because if the technology is not always a 100% solution, we always work on another 30 to 40% where we work on a manual process also. So keeping the business intact. So 70% is my technology and 30% I always prefer to work on manual process, because in case something goes wrong, we switch over to the manual process. So that's what the plan we have done. And it is too early to comment that, we are 100% enabled and we are ready for the third wave also. No, we can't comment on that. Yes, we are working on different multiple ways. See that, business is main thing. The business is not hampered. Collections are not happened. And my team is always kept intact, giving them a thing. That way we are working on it, and we should be able to come out with some kind of blueprint by next 2-3 months for the coming financial year.
Awesome, wonderful, and very rightly said. I think it's a very dynamic world now, and in this journey, it requires continuous innovation. So whatever we do today, we probably will have to keep innovating as we go. So great. And my next question is, how do you reimagine cloud in the post-COVID world? Is hybrid cloud an effective strategy, or 100% cloud is a good strategy? What, as per you, is best?
We are a financial industry. We are very, very precise with the regulatory requirements. Okay, like, they say your customer data. I mean, we as a financial industry, we cannot show the customer data outside India. So we need to have a data center within India. So cloud is a emerging technology where cloud plays very, very important role in every man's life, whether it is a business or a personal life. It plays a very important role, especially for a business like us. Cloud will help us to reduce the upfront investment, because post COVID, every organization is going through a reworking on the complete financials, complete business transformation. So it's right time for us to move on to the cloud. See what happens when you go onto a cloud. Your upfront investment comes down. You don't have, there's a cash flow control over them. So it's more of an OpEx kind of thing. And there, once you are onto the cloud, you can build your private cloud, you can have a hybrid cloud, or you can have multiple. Because normally what happens in the financial industry, we build two kinds of. One is a hybrid. In hybrid cloud, you build a private and a public cloud. Public cloud is more for a front-end team. Your private cloud is more for securing the customer data and the core business financial application. So cloud is your next-gen technology. Built it. It is no more a data center. You don't have to sit in the office, do all this, because cloud is not only the space given to you, it is the infrastructure. Today you have infra as a service, platform as a service, operating system as a service. Everything I don't have to buy. I pay you as I use it. So my cost always is being measured. So I don't have to say that, I need to invest X value for next 5 years. I can only say next 5 years, this is what, and as my business grows up, as my utilization grows, I increase my RAM. But when you in a traditional legacy data center, this is not possible. Future is cloud. Again, we all have to decide what kind of cloud do we need. It depends on the business. It depends on the applications you are going to host, whether it's a customer-facing application or your financial application. But at the same time, when you have everything on the cloud, you have to see that The cloud is just a service provider, but the security data is your responsibility. It is the responsibility of me that when my data and my solutions are implemented on the cloud, to take care of it, take up the backup, and abide to the regulatory requirements given by the regulators like your RBI and NHB, and see that, at no point of time data is breached, secure, because it is a customer's data. End of the day, it is your customer's data, and that data has to be very secure, it has to be respected, and it has to be kept. So for me, cloud is the next generation solution. It is no more a hardware business. It is more of a cloud business, easy to use. And COVID has always taught us, you should always work on an, as I again and again say, hybrid model, and anything and everything should be easily accessible to you anywhere, anytime. That is what is going to happen in future. And that's a technology which you have to adapt, and we can't keep sitting back working on the servers. This is what is my...
Correct. Great. And like you touched upon the security aspect of it, Dominic, if you can highlight a little more, what are the security measures that, you've considered, and what are the security practices that you plan to bring in to create a more secure environment that you're in?
So, Kushbu, when you look at the security, there are two kinds of security we do. One is the physical and the logical security. The physical security is more that you secure your data center, you secure your workplace by giving an access control, by giving your access card, biometric thing. See that everything is monitored, in and out is monitored, and you have everything integrated so that in case of any kind of fire accident and all that, things are in place for you. That is one kind of physical security, which includes right from your security guard up to the moment. Second is the logical security. When you talk about your data, your operating system, your endpoint securities. Today, our laptops and desktops, what is being used, or your mobile devices, or the tablets, iPads, whatever we give today to the my team members has to be well secured, because every data transmitted on the go is at a risk factor. Correct. Whether you talk about a website, whether you talk about your application, it has to be well secured, because you only know it is transmitting between point to point. But in between, it can always be an hacking coming up. Your endpoint. See, normally what we do is we give more importance to your endpoint security when your laptop, desktop is secured using your antivirus, using an encryption, so that your data, tomorrow if it is lost, your laptop is lost and all that also, your data is not at risk. Then you start implementing MDM, mobile device management, on all your mobile phones and the tablets issued to the thing to protect only your business application. So your customer data or your data is secured. And it is not only the customer data, because when your endpoint devices are exposed to the network, when you work from home, your network is not that secure. So tendency or that malware, ransomware attack. Today, ransomware hackers can attack you from any number of ways. So what we have done is we have very cleared a DMZ zone for my data center servers, so that my servers are very well kept. Firewalls have been implemented at all the places. More than that, the policies, the IT security policies, and the BCP and the cyber plan, the cyber crisis management plan, all has been in place. And there is always a drill which we do during your day, what do you call that, to check if your systems are in place, to check if there's any kind of penetration issues. Yearly once we do a VAPT activity to check if your applications are strong enough so that there is no somebody trying to hack. So there are multiple ways you do it, but for everyone, and more than that, security is not only IT department's job, it is everyone's job. For example, you have a laptop, I have a laptop. So I have to see that how I'm going to secure. I can't share my password with somebody and say that I lost my password, somebody hacked my system. So I have to, even me as a CTO should be responsible, equally responsible in respecting the policies implemented in the company, whether it is cyber crisis management policy or IT InfoSec policies. If you don't follow this, nothing can happen to us. And today, when you look at the threat is maximum from the internal, this one, not from the external. External is very big, but internal, you'll find a number of threats coming in. You spy, you tell them not to do this, they purposely do it. They will not do it. They will, and everything you do, you secure everything. You do DLP, you implement data loss prevention, you do everything. When a printing is controlled, what they do is they start taking your mobile phone and start capturing the data. Correct. That we are still, but to be very frank, we are still working on. We see in some of the products where when you take a snapshot, screenshot of a app or something, when you're transferring, it becomes blur. So we are trying to work on that. So there are certain things which we have initiated and which we have done. I think I can say my environment is around 70% secured as on today, because 30% is always at a risk. At any point of time, anything can happen. So I always keep myself, and BCP plan, we always keep it very, very important. Is your BCP plan, business continuity plan, has to be there. It has to be periodically tested. Your backups has to be secured. So these are something which is very important to run an organization and to secure your organization, because you don't know from where your threat is going to come. Who's going to do what?
Right.
You try to keep your eyes and ears, and technically speaking, you have to be always awake to see what's happening. And very, very important thing is audit, briefing, and periodic review of what's happening. You shouldn't let I implemented today, I can see it after 1 year. No, every day review, every week review, every fortnight review to see what are the logs kind of. All this is very, very important. Firewall, endpoint security, DLP, MDN policy, IT port. These are a few things which we follow, and we are successful in that. We've been audited by the regulator some time back, and we seen there was no red flag raised as on today. But there's a long way to go. We're still working on certain solutions.
Okay. Awesome. Wonderful. My next question is, how has COVID impacted? You touched upon a lot of initiatives that you've taken to improve the customer experience and the employee experience as well. So has there been an impact on the customer and employee experience for your company in the current times, and how do you kind of plan to improvise on the whole customer and employee experience?
So for me, there are two kinds of customers I handle. One is my internal customers. That's my colleagues, my team members, and everything. Another one is my external customers who really give business to us. Okay, so I give importance to both of them equally because both are very important to us. The customer, when I look at the customer experience as such, when you took from the customers from where we generate business, we try giving more importance to them from the digital point of view. See that, their accessibility to my system is easily available. When the query is raised, it is easily resolved. It is whether it is not that somebody has to be there physically available to resolve the issue. Technology is playing a very important role. Like when you look at my customer service team, we have a chatbot, we have an IVR, then we have an automated response coming in from the chatbot itself. For example, I as a customer wants to take an MITC or interest certificate or statement of account. I don't have to call up my call center team. I just have to work on a WhatsApp chatbot, and we have a set of options coming in. Just choose one of the options in the automatically the statement of accounts in a PDF format is given to you. And these are all in a very secured environment. You have to register. It is only the registered customers who can do all this activity, because your mobile number becomes your identity for my system to recognize it.
Right.
And second thing is what we have built an app, customer service smart app to the customer, where he can make his payment online, he can get in touch with, and we are trying to educate the customer in a digital way, and whatever new schemes we are coming, he can raise and request from the app itself. He doesn't have to walk into my branch or get onto my website. He can raise a request from the app itself, and if he wants to change the rate of interest, he wants to bring in new business. All this, and we always capture the customer's data. We check the sentiments of the customers. Whenever a customer is typing something on a chat box or talking to us, we will try to analyze this data and see, his sentiments, his requirements are understood, like the way he is going to key in the words, the way he is going to speak to us, what is his intention. We try to capture this. I don't do it. Actually, the team which sits and does it. For that, we are given a technology where we do a kind of psychometric analysis and find out this customer is looking for a kind of reducing the rate of interest, or is looking for a thing. So this helps me to do a upsell and cross-sell of my existing products. And also, when a customer calls up, by seeing his mobile number, when the data populates, and the customer service agent or my chatbot says, "Good morning, Dominic. Good afternoon, Dominic." So that kind of personalized interaction we are trying to build. We are trying to build a human-to-human interaction between the customer as well as my customer service agent or with the chatbot. This is what is created a kind of good experience towards my customer, and customers are really happy on this. And we are able to, and second thing is we are talking to the customer in their language. For example, Hindi, English, sometimes we talk in a Rajasthani also, so that, that homely feeling we are trying to create with a vernacular kind of thing. So see, Indians are very sentimental people. We should understand the sentiment, respect that, and talk to them. And especially when you look at the rural people, they are more conservative. Right. Breaking them is very, very difficult. So we should be very clear in what we do. Okay. And when I talk to my internal customers, when I talk about my internal customers, like my team, the core employees, What we have done is we have made their life, my HR head is working on Great Place to Work initiatives. We have multiple initiatives and it is all digitally driven. Nothing is manual. It is all digitally driven. Today you talk about my core HRMS system. My team doesn't have to come to office to punch in their attendance. They can punch in the attendance from the branch office or when they're on the field, they can punch in their attendance. They can check their leave. They can raise their leave. Everything gets automated, centralized, collocated. You talk about even the reimbursement is automatically calculated and sent to finance and within the period. So there is a core HRMS system which is built. Periodic digital trainings are given to my team that made the internal TC till these guys are not happy, the external customers cannot be happy. So we try to give them all kind of technology, but to a limit without compromising on the security, without overdoing certain things which is of no use for us. So we have built a platform, HRM is a very good platform, and it's really helped the customer internal team, and they're very, very happy for that because your salary slip gets immediately uploaded on the system. Your bank statements are available. We have even integrated the LMS also. Periodic updates happening. So these are a few things which is being built from the internal customer point of view and from the external customer point of view. So that wow experience we are trying to create.
Wonderful. Great insights, Dominic. One last question before we end. Any best practices or any learnings that you would want to share with our viewers, the technology viewers, through this platform? Any last suggestions?
I would always advise whatever you implement, don't overdo the implementation. Always look at the cost, and always technology should be linked with your business because business tells you what you want, and just keep a buffer of certain things. And more than that, review what you have implemented because that will tell you what you have done is right or wrong. And a return on investment of anything for that matter should always be calculated, and metrics has to be maintained when you implement something. See that you're getting back that, because in technology what happens, you don't get back the money or return on investment. You can only get back the utilization. So you should always have a proper metrics. See that your technology is utilized to the core, to the maximum. It's not that you implement something and later after 2 years you think about, no, we shouldn't have. You should never regret. Implementing technology should be regretting after 6 months, and every 3 months technology gets upgraded. Keep yourself updated so that you're in a position of supporting your business at all point of time. That's my take for it.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Dominic, once again for joining on this platform and giving all your wonderful insights and experiences with us.
My pleasure talking to you.